Who is behind the devil mask in AEW that's been haunting the shows for weeks? On the September 27 episode of Dynamite, 4 masked men could be seen wiping out Switchblade Jay White shortly after he was revealed as the next challenger for MJF's AEW World Championship. In addition to the 4 faceless attackers, a 5th individual could be seen watching over the assault wearing MJF's infamous devil mask to cover his face. Since then, the same devil has been spotted several times on television, each time sparking speculation on who the mystery man could be. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at all of the candidates on the lips of fans and break down the chances of them being the one behind the mask before I reveal who I think is the man in question. First, let's take a look at some notable mentions that are viable candidates to fill the role, but I feel are less likely than the 4 key suspects that we'll highlight in more detail. Wardlow, of course, has a storied history with MJF, with him being the former heavy of the current AEW World Champion. The 2 men would go their separate ways after tensions began to build due to Max's tendencies to take advantage of his once loyal companion, leading to the big man walking away from the situation. Even in supposed out-of-character interviews, Wardlow has made clear that he does not trust MJF and his new friendly demeanor, with him feeling that it is all for show. Whilst I would probably rule out the War Dog from being the main devil due to the clear size differences between the 2 figures, I wouldn't be too shocked to find out that he was one of the 4 other masked men that have been doing the dirty work for the mysterious leader. Another name linked with the devil role is recently released WWE superstar Mustafa Ali, due to his past in the Retribution faction, who had a similar aesthetic to that of the Masked Assassins in AEW. Ali was let go from WWE on September 21st. This is part of a batch of main roster budget cuts that day. Whilst for now he isn't able to appear on AEW television due to him being bound to a 90-day non-compete clause, it's possible that somebody else is playing the role for now until Ali becomes available, at which point he's swapped in as if it was him all along. Notably, Mustafa and the rest of his fellow released superstars will be available to work for another wrestling promotion from December 20th onwards, which is 10 days before the AEW World's End pay-per-view on December 30, which is 2 days before the AEW contract of MJF supposedly expires. Could this be the event that the Devil's identity is revealed, and if so, Ali is technically a candidate, as are other recently released stars such as Dolph Ziggler, although I would say it's unlikely. Current number 1 contender Jay White was the first person to be taken out by the Devil's henchman, who is of course the lead member of Bullet Club Gold. The reason for Switchblade having his own sub-faction of Bullet Club in the first place was due to the way that he exited New Japan Pro-Wrestling, where he was attacked by the new self-proclaimed BC leader David Finlay of Bullet Club War Dogs. One viable theory is that Finlay and crew are now forcing their way through the Forbidden Door in order to spark a civil war between the 2 sub-factions. With that said, it feels to me like the Devil is trying to clear the path for himself by taking out anyone close to the AEW World title scene and the champion MJF, so the idea of this being a direct attack on Bullet Club Gold is unlikely, when you remember the mystery group also laid out the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. This also rules out Bullet Club Gold being behind the attack as a way of turning on Jay White for the very same reason. One of the wildest predictions that I've seen is the theory that AEW president Tony Khan is in fact behind the attacks. As the story goes, MJF is currently the AEW World Champion and is playing up to the fact that his contract will expire when the clock strikes midnight on the very last day of 2023. As the owner of the company, it would certainly be a bad look for Khan's world champ to jump ship to WWE while still in possession of his belt, with desperate times calling for desperate measures. Perhaps now Tony is orchestrating a plan to do all he can to take the title away from MJF, hiring 4 masked men in order to do his dirty work. Whilst this option would logically explain how the Devil has forced his way onto AEW broadcasts, we'll place this possibility very much in the unlikely category for now. But will he be saying it was me, Friedman, it was me all along? One of the top free agents on the market today is former Impact World Champion SAMI Callihan, this after his contract with Impact Wrestling expired in late September. Since then, he's been open to all options, including a move to WWE, AEW, New Japan, and MLW. It was recently reported by Fightful Select that Callihan's former tag team partner John Moxley has been pushing for Tony Khan to make the signing, this due to their longtime friendship from their time as the Switchblade Conspiracy. Callihan is known for his hacking ability, something that was a key part of his character in NXT, where he worked as Solomon Crow in the mid-2010s, a character trait that came into play at one point during his run in Impact. The Devil in AEW appears to have some kind of capability to hack a live television feed, as his appearances on the screen have been presented as something that's not part of the official broadcast. There's a chance that SAMI is hacking his way into All Elite Wrestling, straight into the main event picture with MJF in his sights. As of late, MJF has been a changed man, going from the biggest scumbag in all of wrestling to becoming your scumbag, having embraced the fan support that he was receiving towards the end of his time as a heel. However, if history has taught us anything, it's never trust MJF. Whether it be Cody Rhodes, Wardlow, Chris Jericho, or William Regal, Max has shown himself as somebody that's willing to act a certain way to get what he wants, before the true snake that he is emerges from the grass. Now let's take a look at some of the facts. The Devil in question is wearing the mask that MJF introduced at AEW All Out when he won the Casino Ladder match, where he was revealed as the Joker mystery entrant. That night, he would hire a group of masked men to clear the field for him before making his entrance under the hood. He would then be handed the poker chip that earned him a shot at the AEW World Championship, later revealing his identity after the close of the main event. Now look at what's playing out on screen once again. A masked devil is hiring masked men to do their bidding, targeting anyone that gets near MJF, whether it be friend or foe. Is Max just pretending that his mask was stolen in order to trick the world? Could what we're seeing play out be the alter ego of, and the true Maxwell Jacob Friedman that we know and kinda love, and the antithesis of the nice guy that he's become? Just remember, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist, and are we witnessing the devil shed his skin to show that he was here with us all along? Now, as of this recording, the last time we saw the Devil and his henchmen on screens was on the October 8th episode of Dynamite, a show that saw them lay out the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn backstage before throwing Anthony Bowens through a pane of glass. Of course, this led to many speculating that it could be a clue that a certain Jack Perry is behind the assault, this after he was involved in some glass-related drama at Wembley Stadium. It was recently reported that medical staff and management had been advising Jack against using real glass for a segment leading into AEW All in London, with them eventually asking then Collision leader CM Punk to step in and have a word. It appears that Perry didn't take kindly to this advice, and more specifically the fact that his disagreement leaked to the media, with him making reference to this fact during the pre-show for the Wembley show. After Jack landed a rolling senton onto Hook on the hood of a car, he would say directly into the camera, "You know what this is, right? Real glass, go cry me a river," words that were clearly directed at the Second City Saint. This would instigate a confrontation backstage between the two men, sparking a physical altercation that ultimately led to CM Punk being fired from All Elite Wrestling. At AEW setting up the return of Hollywood Jack Perry, with him set to be revealed as the Devil himself, with the glass spot being the first clue of his arrival, well, it's certainly possible, albeit a slightly underwhelming one, were it to come to fruition. Adam Cole and MJF have formed quite the friendship over the past few months, with them going from enemies to best friends and even fellow ROH Tag Team Champions. However, the ongoing storyline would be dealt a hammer blow when Cole suffered from an injury during an AEW World Title match between MJF and Samoa Joe, this when he jumped down from the entrance ramp to help his friend, only to roll his ankle, ruling him out of action for several months. During the entire friendship angle, fans would continually anticipate one man turning on the other, something that was teased several times, although AEW were yet to pull the trigger. Reports suggest that Adam is expected to be out for several months, which would rule out a return before the new year hits. However, what if the injury isn't as bad as it's being made out to be, or what if there's no injury at all? There are some clues that point towards Adam Cole being the one pulling the strings of the masked henchman. Firstly, his ongoing push for MJF to team up with Samoa Joe. Cole has appeared on AEW Dynamite several times via FaceTime to encourage Max to choose the Samoan Submission Machine as his temporary partner for Full Gear, where the ROH World Tag Team titles will be defended against the Guns. The recent attack on the Acclaimed, who were becoming trusted companions of Max, suggests that the Devil is trying to leave him with no other choice than to team with Joe, who has made clear that he wants a shot at the AEW World title, and is likely somebody you don't want in your corner when he's after your blood. Another thing to point out is that the Devil has also set about wiping out Jay White, who is currently in line for a title shot of his own, with the potential justification for this being that he wants to clear the way for himself to rise to the #1 contender status with little competition along the way. During the weeks that Cole was undergoing supposed surgery, where in storyline he featured in vignettes stuck helping Roderick Strong inside his humble abode, the Devil was nowhere to be seen, only to reappear when Cole eventually managed to escape. Also, fans have pointed out that this masked assailant looks a lot like Matt Taven, which would suggest that the Kingdom and Roderick Strong and potentially a returning Kyle O'Reilly are in on the act. One thing that could suggest that Adam Cole is in fact not under the Devil mask is that the Devil debuted 1 week after Cole suffered his injury, so if the ankle injury isn't to work and AEW were willing to go ahead with the story regardless, then this could be a sign that he isn't involved at all. Or on the flip side, the timing of the convenient excuse to disappear from television 1 week before a masked man begins to haunt MJF could be a sign that it's been a ruse all along, although it depends on if you believe the ankle injury is real or not. The most telling clue of all is this shot of MJF and Adam Cole in the locker room of AEW All in London, where Adam is sat directly underneath the Devil mask in question. Was this shot moments before it was taken, and if so, was it Cole who took it? With that said, bear in mind that this segment was shot before the reported injury struck. Prior to the ankle injury, Cole was planned for a Deadlock Pro Wrestling match with real-life friend and YouTuber Chris Denker aka Chris Danger, which was going to be the YouTuber's first match of his career. This of course then had to be called off due to the broken ankle. If it was a work, this feels like a big moment to cancel on for the sake of the storyline, and likely wouldn't have been agreed to by AEW at all if this supposedly worked injury was in the plans. It is of course possible that the injury is real, but Cole is under the mask and will just be revealed once he's healed, but we just don't know how long that will take, but maybe it'll be quicker than first feared. Let's also not rule out Roderick Strong being the one to orchestrate the whole Devil situation behind Adam Cole's back, although I think it's more likely that he's one of the men under the masks. And now let's get to the main event and the reason you clicked on this thumbnail to begin with. CM Punk has become the most divisive wrestler potentially of all time, with half of wrestling fans despising the mere mention of his name, whilst the other half eagerly await his next move to be revealed with bated breath. No matter how you feel about the guy, he's going to get people talking one way or the other, with him holding the ability to spark an entire layered debate from just one simple social media post. Prior to the All Out pay-per-view earlier this year in Chicago, All Elite Wrestling and Tony Khan would announce that due to the much discussed backstage events of AEW All in London, Philip Jack Brooks, aka CM Punk, had been terminated with cause due to a scuffle with Jack Perry and an apparent lunge at the company's president. Whilst many WWE fans look forward to his potential arrival at either Survivor Series or maybe even Royal Rumble, there are some that feel his days in AEW are far from over, with a theory suggesting that this entire situation is an elaborate work. First up, let's take a look at AEW's history of turning a supposed real-life situation into a storyline, or a situation that may have been a storyline all along, which is why it's so important. The most notable example followed reports that MJF had refused to attend an official meet and greet, leading to questions on if he would attend the Double or Nothing pay-per-view that weekend in 2022. Whilst Max would show up to do the honors for then rival Wardlow, he would appear on the next episode of AEW Dynamite to cut a pipe bomb style promo on Tony Khan, running him down for his constant signings of former WWE talent whilst overlooking him, before calling Khan a mark that would be better off behind the barricade and not in a position of power of a wrestling company. He would then disappear from television for an entire 3 months, with many wondering if he'd ever be seen inside an AEW ring again. This would lead to no mention of Max during his hiatus, his merch would be removed from the store, and he was cut from all of the intros of the show. Even more importantly, after this shoot promo on Khan, what television viewers didn't see was that CM Punk came down to the ring to reason with MJF or even chase him off, depending on how you look at it, this before he disappeared into the crowd. Unfortunately for fans, we never saw this go further due to Punk suffering from an injury that same night. Add to this the confrontation between Max and Punk at All Out 2022, where MJF revealed himself as the Devil, as well as the recent Real World Championship storyline on Collision that saw Punk name drop the actual world champion MJF on several occasions. These angles that were cut short for one reason or another suggest suggests that the beef between the two men is far from over and that AEW had every intention of finishing the story between them. Don't forget the fact that MJF is still very much claiming that his All Elite Wrestling contract is expiring at the end of 2023, even declaring that he's going to initiate a bidding war between AEW and WWE. This shows one of two things. Either Tony Khan is more than willing to turn a real-life situation into a storyline as long as it's engaging for fans, or secondly, Max's contract doesn't expire at the end of the year and this is all an angle. If the latter is true, there's been no reports categorically confirming that MJF has signed a new deal, which shows AEW were able to keep certain information under lock and key when they really try. In any case, is this a formula that they're willing to recreate in other situations, such as CM Punk? Now remember that for the rest of the video. So now that we know AEW are more than willing to blur the realms of fiction and reality, let's break down some points that suggest CM Punk could still be All Elite. Whilst initially AEW pulled all CM Punk related merchandise from their website, it's worth mentioning that there are now a number of items that have been re-added over the recent weeks, including the infamous Ringer Best in the World t-shirt. It could be a case of this being leftover stock that the company are looking to shift out of the door. However, given the recent revelations that Punk is the second highest merch draw in wrestling today, behind WWE's Cody Rhodes, you'd assume that this stock would be long gone by this point. If the Devil were to be revealed as CM Punk, it could be a sign that he and the Elite in fact did manage to agree to work together prior to All In, hence why the Young Bucks appeared on the episode of Collision where Tony Khan announced that Punk was fired from AEW, where they were seen doing what has been described as a victory lap at the end of the show in front of the Chicago crowd. Is this just to pour more heat on the supposed real-life issues? Let's also remember that Kenny Omega recently referred to the Young Bucks as children before they replied that it's not the first time they've heard this, with this being something CM Punk called them during the infamous media scrum. Another thing concerning MJF is the fact that on the same episode of Dynamite, Max called himself the real world's champion. Another clue to look at comes in the form of a trademark filing by Dax Harwood, one half of the FTR tag team and one of Punk's closest allies. On October 5th, 1 month after CM Punk's termination from AEW, Harwood would seek to lock down the term CMFTR, which is of course the name of the CM Punk FTR trio, this for specific use in wrestling contests. The terminology used in the mark suggests that this is far more than a simple merchandising related trademark, and the three men plan on teaming together again someday. It's possible and admittedly more likely that this will happen outside of AEW, perhaps in New Japan Pro-Wrestling, but it's also entirely plausible that it's to set up an All Elite reunion at some point. Regarding the actual Devil and the whole topic of this video, let's not forget the mask itself is a direct reference to CM Punk in the first place, and a nod to a Ring of Honor promo in 2005. The promo would follow reports that Punk was WWE bound, with fans assuming that he was set to lose on his way out of the door. However, to the surprise of everyone watching, he would win the ROH World Championship, declaring that he's been playing the audience the whole time, stating that the greatest thing the Devil ever did was make you people believe he didn't exist. I am the Devil himself, and all you stupid, mindless people fell for it. A clip of this promo would even play right before MJF revealed himself as the Devil at All Out, and AEW had to know that there was going to be a portion of the audience that would believe Punk is wearing the mask this time around. Was this where the angle was heading all along, had it not been for the various roadblocks? CM Punk is perhaps best known for his pipe bomb promo in WWE in 2011, where he infamously claimed that he was leaving WWE when his contract expires, reminiscent of the ongoing MJF saga. And the one thing WWE's storyline lacked was the belief that Punk had actually left the company with the belt after Money in the Bank 2011. It was clear that he had re-signed, and this was all part of a work. So can you imagine if it turns out that CM Punk and Tony Khan have pulled the wool over everyone's eyes, tricking them into believing that the latter feared for his life, resulting in Punk's firing from the company, with the vast majority believing that this is all complete truth. A story that has everything the Summer of Punk should have had but lacked. One glaring question that comes out of all of this is, why would AEW deliberately lose out on money by pulling CM Punk from television for the sake of an angle, resulting in bad publicity, dropping ratings, and dropping attendances? The first and simplest answer would be to go through short-term pain for long-term gain, especially if this leads to CM/FTR versus the Elite, and maybe even CM Punk versus Kenny Omega. A second reason could be that Punk once again suffered from a minor injury and took some time off to heal. In either case, despite any bad press, CM Punk has unquestionably been the talk of wrestling up until this very day, which would bring even more eyes in and turn more heads were he to ultimately return, especially now that his name is linked with a WWE return, with many of their fans hoping and even expecting it. The greatest trick the Devil could ever pull is making us believe that he was publicly fired by Tony Khan on live television after making him fear for his life. Let's be honest, the Devil is almost certainly Adam Cole, but what if? And before you go, make sure you check out 10 facts that MJF doesn't want you to know.